There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father.
Man, this stuff rocks.
Hey, this is John Connolly from Sevendust and Projected, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father, and as always, I bring you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome Sevendust John Connolly and his supergroup band entitled Projected will release their third album, Hypoxia, via Rat Pack Records, June 24th. Hypoxia is the follow-up to 2017's release, Ignite My Insanity. John, welcome back to the podcast, man, and how you doing?
Hey, I've been doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
How excited are you to release this upcoming third album, man? Because I know it's been a while since we had the previous one.
Yeah, man. It's, I sort of joked around. I was like, yeah, it's not going to be 5 years before we release our third record because everyone gave us, so much crap for it being 5 years between the first two. And I was like, oh, man, I can't believe it was that long. And, we were set to be, 2-3 years. And with the delay with vinyl and COVID and everything coming back online, we're right back on the 5-year schedule. So it was 2017 when we released the last record. And it's 5 years again, crazy enough as it is. It feels really good to finally get this thing out. At some point it was just like, oh man, everybody fighting for everything all at the same time, because everyone sort of did the same thing. It was like, if you can't tour, you're going to hop in the studio and try to make music. Mm-hmm. And, some of us have to juggle more than one thing. So it was like, the Projected thing needs to kind of go sit on the shelf for a minute and let's figure the Sevendust thing out. Cause that, once that comes back online, that's, that's what pays the bills. That's what does everything.
Right.
I think we're just now to the point, since we've actually started touring again, where we're not really talking about COVID as much. I don't think we're thinking about COVID as much. Still being careful, doing the normal stuff, but it finally feels like we're sort of back to the way it was back in 2019 again, so that feels amazing too.
Kind of feels like if it's not a 5-year stint of not getting a Projected album, then we don't want it. It's
pretty much right. So it's like, all right, well, 2027, I'm due for another one. So I'll go ahead and start stockpiling some tunes.
Oh man, I know you've been doing this for a while, John, but creating music for Projected, does this help you to stay creative and not get burnt out on Sevendust and everything that goes with that? Does this allow you to refresh yourself, man?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it gives me an opportunity to explore, pieces of music that I might be hearing differently from, some of the other guys, which is totally cool. I mean, there's a million times where a song will, work in one scenario and maybe just not the other. And sometimes it just has to do with the just the voice and the type of a vocal thing that you're trying to pull off. Lejean and myself have very, very different styles when it comes to singing. So sometimes the translation from, going one way or the other, it may work and sometimes it might not work. But the cool thing with Projected is I know that it works when I hear it. Like, it doesn't take more than a listen or two before I either go delete or, okay, let's double that real quick and just go ahead and throw it down the way. At least it's a good placeholder. Like, I'm not deleting it. But I can be a little bit more objective when it's my own voice doing it. If it's just one of those days where maybe the voice isn't doing what I know that I could get it to do, then I'm not focused on that. I'm just, focused on the melody. Some days you just open up your mouth and it's like, wow, that sounds great. You just, you sing a bunch and then you probably sing too much and then you can't sing for 2 days. because you blew it all out on the one day. You got super excited. Yeah. But I think with Projected, I can just be a little bit more. I think I can follow my instinct a little bit more with that, because it's from a vocal perspective, it's more coming from one place as opposed to multiple places. Sometimes with Sevendust, or at least with Projected, one place is the intention. There are co-writes on the record and stuff like that. With friends. I mean, I think every record I've had Mark Tremonti co-write a song. But yeah, it's like Project is just an easier spot to kind of know that this is going to work or it's not going to work.
Do you kind of feel like, man, when you're writing stuff for Projected, like your guitar riffs and everything, you kind of feel like, I wonder how good that would go with Sevendust. Maybe I should save that. Does that go through your mind at all?
100%. And we've actually had, anytime that I've got one thing on the radar and the other thing comes up before, it can go either way. There's times where I might be, looking at something going, well, I really thought that was Sevendust, but it's probably Projected. It goes the other way too. But yeah, I mean, if I've got something that I've been working on, perfect example is right now, there's 3 or 4 things that I thought might be Projected, and I went ahead and sang on them. But since we're making a Sevendust record, it's like, let's at least listen to them and shoot it down, or go, yeah, it sounds like Projected, keep it. Or wait a minute, no, that we want that. Let's 86 the vocal and keep the music, or do whatever. So yeah, I mean, Sevendust is always going to have dibs on pretty much anything, that's going to come down the pipe. I think the biggest problem is it's hard sometimes for everything to get as much time. If you go into our Dropbox folders, there's so many pieces of music and sessions, riffs, there's not a shortage of things to pull from. And sometimes you just miss it. Sometimes there's just so many things to go through that you just can't get to everything, But yeah, I mean, it definitely, it works both ways. There's times where I'm like, yeah, this is a Projected song. I play for the guys, and I'm like, no, it's not. We're taking that one for sure. Then I got to go to Flip and be like, yeah, man, they took it. He's like, damn it, I knew they were going to do that. And I'm like, well, sort of the nature of where we're at here. First right of refusal. Whoever's up next gets dibs.
What led Hypoxia to be the first track released off this album? Because I know, man, there's other bangers on here that just as well could have been the lead track off of it.
I mean, Hypoxia was one of those weird songs. It was the last song that was written for the record. It was sort of okay, we have the record, and I was sort of starting to come up with a sequence of how I wanted it to, kind of, how was the flow going to be? How was the presentation? And then I was like, you know what? I should probably just do one more as a safety. It's always a good idea at the 11th hour just to like punch out one, because usually you're relaxed. You're like, all right, I'm not thinking about this. I'm not stressing. Let's just see what happens. And I think I gave maybe an hour tops to just the piece of music, and it was one of those ones where it came together pretty quick, and I was like, all right, yeah, I could probably hammer this into something, kind of cool. And I had a bike ride. It was like an hour and a half bike ride. And I put my earbuds in, and the mix was actually pretty good. Like, I got lucky on that one. So when it was in my ears, it sounded really, really good. So it was inspirational. And I don't know, I came off the bike an hour and a half later. The whole song was written. I went upstairs, sang it, and sent it over to Elvis. And normally I get, like when he's going through his book, his normal feedback will be, verse too long, bridge is really cool, maybe put a tag, explore a halftime thing, maybe double time at the end for the chorus. He gives you all these little, this list. And I remember when we were going through this one, I'm sitting there and I was like, oh no. Because I saw Hypoxia, it takes up a third of the page, right? Well, there's only one word next to it. And I was like, oh God, what is this? So I was like, what's that one word say? And he started laughing. He goes, wow. And I went, really? And he goes, yeah. And then Flip goes, dude, by the way, that's the first single. And then Erock comes like 3 days later and he goes, dude, that has to be the first video and it has to be the first single. So I was like, it was sort of like a joke, like, all right, the record's done. Let's just, for insurance, let's just do one more and just see what happens. So interestingly enough, right around that time, I was kind of struggling. Some album titles come up, like Human came out in the middle of the process. Ignite My Insanity happened before any of it started, since it was, all really built with intention. Mm-hmm. And then Hypoxia, we didn't have a clue. I mean, honestly, we had no clue. We had a bunch of album titles that were just weird and beat and long and nothing that was interesting whatsoever. And then when that song happened, it was just like everyone kept looking, going, why don't you just call the record Hypoxia? It's cool. And I was like, it's too obvious, the album titles, all right, whatever, and Rat Pack loved it. Everyone loved it. So I just said, all right, Path of Least Resistance. Go with what everyone is vibing on and everyone is into. But everyone was really into that song on the first listen. So I said, okay, I'm going to follow everyone else's lead on this one.
All right, John, would you say this is the most cohesive work that the band has done, especially considering, it's the first time you all went into the recording studio together?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in itself, it has a feel, it has a sound, it has a vibe. It just has a continuity, the whole production, that you get when you go in with, Elvis and Jeff. It's, I'm not going to say that it's like the same, but the process is the same. So there's no mystery into how you're actually going to get from point A to point B. You have plenty of pleasant surprises along the way, that just happen, accidents like, oh, that was cool. What was that? Glad we were recording, glad we're in a studio and, we're absolutely capturing everything. But yeah, I mean, as far as being cohesive, I think it was more finished before we took it in the studio. Every song had vocals on it. And it was the first time that Elvis, I remember he was like, all right, how many songs are in your Dropbox folder? Because, I mean, he's been given Dropbox folders with, 30 and 40 pieces of music in it when he's got to listen and try to figure out what 10 are going to be the best. This time it was, he was like, well, it looks like you have 13 in here. How many are going? I was like, every one of them. And he was like, oh. And I was like, that's the record. And he was like, oh, cool. So we don't have to go. I said, no, we don't have to go through any of that stuff. Everyone's cool with that being the record. So that's what we did. I think it was just a little easier because it was easier to focus. You could come up with a game plan, you come up with a workflow, and then once you get enough parts into their prospective places, it's basically just, sort of go in and, whatever song I'm working on during that day, sort of everyone else is too, and we would just sort of like, all right, let's see how deep, how far we can get to finishing this thing. Once the vocals are in, place, then, Erock can sing against it. And then we put the guitars against it and programming and all that stuff. But it's just a totally different experience when you don't have to focus on all the other stuff. It's always the production. It's never the physical recording. Did I have a good time recording Vinnie in a hotel in Chicago out on tour? Yeah, it was a blast. We had a blast. It was great. Was it ideal? Nope. we had a couple of pairs of earbuds with some little wide jack coming out of, an M box with a hard drive, and we're using plugins for this is what we were doing. So when you do that and then you actually go and you put it together, you're like, all right, well, there's only so much shine you can put on it. If it's still a turd, it's just gonna be a real shiny turd, but
yeah.
But yeah, when you go in there and you don't have to think about any of that stuff and you can just go straight to the creative part of the process. There is something to be said about that, because you have X amount of energy, each day to dedicate towards whatever you want to dedicate towards. And sometimes that production eats up a lot of your energy, man. I'm telling you, it does.
Oh, for sure. I could. Yeah, for sure, man.
Wake up, have a cup of coffee and go, so we could get right to it. You're like, what? Really? That's cool. It's a totally experience when you just let go and just let the art happen, which is awesome.
I know you had to step away from social media because of all the bull crap that came with it during the pandemic, but how good was it to get back into that recording studio and see those faces mentally? Because that's a hard thing for all of us who had to stay home and not see nobody. But how was that mentally for you, though?
In some ways, it's like if you could have scripted the perfect pandemic, I might have had it. Just from a timing perspective, it's like yes, it's kind of shocking when you realize that all of your touring is going away and that we literally had to cancel a Sevendust tour. So it was like, okay, plan B. What's plan B? We don't know. So let's figure out what to do with plan C. And then how about plan D? What's plan D? Well, plan D is like projected. You know, it's like the side projects when you're that far down the hole. So we booked it, you know, like, I don't know, the week that the whole world shut down, we booked the record and we were in the studio less than a month after that. And we were in the studio for probably about 5, maybe close to 6 weeks. So the whole front 9 of the pandemic for us, we had those moments where you could just completely unplug into the music. You know, you weren't even watching TV. You didn't even know, you weren't talking about coronavirus. You're just working on tunes, you know? So in some ways for me, it was like the timing worked out. I mean, there's no good time for a pandemic, but for me, I was like, all right, this is going to work out to where I think mentally it was to the point where it's like, okay, you know, when you're in the house and you're trying to, you know, I think the trickiest part about pulling any of this off was, you know, my wife's home, my daughter's home doing virtual school, and I've got to finish demoing some of these songs. So I'm like, all right, let me know when you're going to go out for like 30 minutes so I can scream real loud. Because when you're in a house together and you're doing vocals, it's not fun for the people who aren't doing the vocals. So that was a bit of a trick. You know, it's like I might be singing at weird times, you know, just to get the template down. Mm-hmm. But yeah, hitting the studio in June and July, right when the whole world was just scratching their heads going, what's normal? Like, are we going forwards? Are we going backwards? You know, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm thankful that I had another part of what I do for a living to be able to focus on. Because, you know, I mean, the touring part was easy. It was like, okay, realistically, when's the soonest we're going to be back on tour? And, you know, when management and your agent and everyone's telling you a year, mm-hmm. Like a year, like 12 months, they're like minimum 12 months. And you're like, oh, okay. So time to learn a language, you know, do those projects at the house, do the side project, do whatever. So yeah, I mean, you know, for me, it's sort of just like, okay, you know, this is what we're given here. And we went straight into album mode. And in some ways, it probably mentally saved me at the beginning of the pandemic for sure.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I hate that we had to go through this, but for some people, it kind of, you know, got their creative juices flowing more. You know, it really helped them out through all this.
Well, I mean, you could woodshed, you know, anything that you wanted to spend time doing more of, that you wanted to get better at, you would spend doing it. And I mean, for me, I was singing a lot more. I can tell you that much. You know, when I went in to sing this latest Projected record, yeah, I wanted to almost, you know, to the point where it was like, I know that I'm going to still have my computer up there with the lyrics, but I don't want to read them. I just want to use them as reference just to make sure I'm not singing the wrong song. Like I wanted to get to the point where each line would be its own performance instead of it sounding like I was reading, you know, off the computer, which sometimes, you know, I don't notice that you can hear it until you hear it. And then you go, oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, you know, for me, it was like, okay, I need to work on the vocals and get it really dialed in, which was, it was awesome. But the funny thing was my guitar playing took a hit because I was like, oh, wait a minute, I haven't played guitar in like 10 days. And I grabbed the guitar and was like, oh, I can't even fret a chord right. So I did it for like 4 or 5 days before I went in the studio. I was like, oh, I got to play all these riffs. What's going on here? But yeah, you know, it's like when you have all that time, I mean, you know, what I do is, you know, make noise. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it comes together in a cool way and, you know, makes cool songs. Sometimes it's just noise. But either way, I get to make the noise. you know what I mean? And it's like, it's a pretty cool job when you just grab a cup of coffee and grab a guitar and go in there and just make racket. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, on my worst day, look what I get to do. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely blessed for sure.
Are these all brand new songs, or these songs left off the previous album, or maybe left in the vault that you just pulled out that's not seen a light of day?
Most of them are either recent or new-ish, other than there were a handful that we ran up the Sevendust flagpole on the last 2 records, and they just weren't working. I mean, sometimes it's because they were written for Projected in the first place, which I always have to be careful about that. It's like, if it was intentionally written for my voice and I give it to LJ, he's in a completely different league vocally. So sometimes what I give him is too dumbed down. You know what I mean? Like it would suit my vocal style better than his. And sometimes it has nothing to do with his performance. He just completely nails exactly what I give him. And I go, yeah, it's not good enough because he's such a better singer than that. So you go back to this, you either go back to the drawing board and you rewrite from scratch, or you just go, okay, no, that's actually going to stay over there in the Projected camp. Yeah, there were 2 or 3 songs that were definitely that were like, okay, well, they just didn't, you always want to explore just to be like, okay, just in case it was going to work for Sevendust, we should at least listen to it. Mm-hmm. And we did, and it didn't work, but they're on this record. That's what's awesome.
Any tracks that didn't make this album we could see on another EP or another album from Projected that didn't get swiped by Sevendust, I should say?
Yeah. As far as actually running them up and tracking them, no. Okay. We only focused on what we knew was actually going to be on the record for a couple of reasons. Number one, we didn't know, when you're in the pandemic, you're hopeful that the whole world is going to come back online. You're doubtful it's ever going to come back online. And then somewhere, further on down the road is where we ended up. But, at that point in time, you're like, all right, let's be high and tight about this as much as we can. Let's just focus on what we need to get focused on, because we totally could have just said, you know what, we got the time. Let's just spend another, 2 months in the studio and write 40 songs. And then we'd be like, all right, are we going to release another double record? Am I going to line them up? Am I not going to make any music for another 3 years? And I was like, it felt like the songs that are on the record, the 13 that came together, it didn't feel like a struggle to get that many pieces of music together. It always feels like I could push farther, which is a good place to be in, because I've probably got about 5 or 6 things that'll probably be on the next Projected record already started. But okay, all that stuff's still in demo, form, but it does have vocals on it. So it's obviously a lot closer to sounding like, one or the other.
I want to go back here for just a few moments, because you talked about the pandemic and them, management telling you, okay, it's going to be a year. Did you think that it was ever going to get back to, doing some tours? And now after getting back out, what's your thoughts on all this, man?
When you're in the middle of it, you're doubtful only because nobody knows who to listen to. You wake up on a Monday and Fauci's the best, and then on Tuesday Fauci's the worst, and then on Wednesday, it's like it was all over the map. It was like, how many masks are we supposed to wear on our elbows? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I've lost track. Like, CDC says this, Fauci says that, Trump says something stupid, and everyone's dumber for all of it. I mean, it was just like never ending. You're just like, oh my God, you just watch it and you're like, this is not a show. This is not scripted. This is real time. This is actually happening. But the thing is once, I think once, the vaccines kind of came around and we started having a lot more treatments, and once the hospitalization started to drop, then you sort of look at it and you go, all right, here's the deal. We may always have this. This is just going to be one of those things that you either get a shot for, or you're going to get it, at some point or other. I mean, there's plenty of people who don't get flu shots. I mean, I got to be honest with you right now. I need one. I'm sort of overdue, but there's plenty of people who go their entire lives without getting a flu shot. I'm sure there's probably going to be plenty of people that are going to go their entire lives without getting a COVID shot, and they'll be fine. They'll probably have given it to 30 people in their lifetime, but who knows? But it feels better now than it did in 2020, because in 2020 it was just like, just wing it and see if it works. Nobody has any idea. At least now you've got enough data where you go, okay, we were stupid to do that. Let's not do that again. Let's not take the entire economy and just throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Let's try not to do that.
I know these are your babies, John, but are they any tracks sending out more to you than any right now, man?
You know, it changes every time I listen to the record, but it's always the ones that you never really think are gonna be much of anything, the ones that surprise you the most. So, you know, it's hard to not say Hypoxia didn't really surprise me, just because I really, you know, I just thought it was another cool song. I didn't think it was anything that special. I just thought it was going to be a cool album track. And, you know, it was pretty basic. It was pretty straightforward. It was heavy. That one surprised me. I think Dark is another one that really surprised me too, because I sort of said, all right, we need something that's more in this vein. And that one just turned into a really, really special song. You know, completely different, polar opposite element from Hypoxia. Like, you couldn't get any different. You know, it's almost a completely different style of music, but still connected. You know, but those are the two that are probably the ones that I went, huh? The two I least expected.
Was there a track that you guys were working on that totally ended up sounding different than it was intended to? Was there one for you, man, that just like turned out totally different than you wanted it to be?
Yeah, probably Death Was Mostly Permanent, because I kept laughing that it was still in the mix. Like, it was sort of one of the ones that was like, okay, if the record's supposed to have 12 songs, then that's the one that's not going to be, you know, that's 13. That's on the outside looking in. And it was one of those pieces of music that was just like, I don't know, maybe it was because there were parts of it that were older. The whole middle section was brand new, but it wasn't organized to be like a radio or a single or anything like that. It was more like, okay, well, if you have a moment to make like sort of the epic journey of a song, this is going to be the one that it's going to be. And I think the reason that it stuck around was because lyrically it got written very quickly. And it was the only song on the record that was sort of addressing the pandemic in real time. You know, what I was seeing on CNN, you know, or MSNBC, or, you know, what you'd be talking about with people, you know, on social media and stuff like that. It was sort of that moment where it was like, okay, the question mark's never been bigger, and I don't know if we're ever going to get back to normal. But now I know that we're losing people, because you start, you know, when the whole thing first started, it was like just knowing someone who had it was like, oh, shocking. And then 3 months in, now you're knowing people who are passing from it. Right. You know, that was about that point in the writing process where that song sat, was like, okay, I need to at least address the elephant in the room here. I know I'm not going to do a whole record about it, but it needs to be, you know, at least subject wise, you know, what's happening, what's going on in the world right now. And it was like the most honest, like, okay, here it is. This is what's going down. I don't know if that's part of what kept it around, but it was one of those pieces of music that we just sort of like, we didn't spend as much time on it, I felt, as we did some of the other ones, but I don't think that it lacked anything for it. In some ways, I think it actually turned into a cooler song that way. It had space, it breathed more. The solo section is just epic. And it was just one of those ones that was like, you know, I thought it was going to be a whatever, you know, a throwaway piece. And a lot of people were really, really drawn to that song. So I was like, all right, well, there was a reason that it stuck around for sure.
Now, I know you've worked with Michael Elvis Basket before, but how's working with him, man? Does he get something out of you guys that, you know, maybe somebody else might not get, possibly?
Well, I know he did it for me. You know, as far as music goes, it's interesting because he's always going to look at whatever you're doing and explore every option. You know, should you be doing it at the 5th fret? Should you be doing it up at the 12th fret? Should it be an octave thing? Should you be playing the chords? Is that chord in tune? You know, he's the one who's got his eye on the ball for all that stuff. So, you know, that's just sort of the details and the getting it done. But as far as the physical, let's go explore something that we've never tried before, it was cool having him when you're in the booth, you know, when you're in the vocal booth and especially when you're like exploring harmonies and different things and layers and brand new parts that, you know, you've literally written on the spot. Yeah, I mean, I know he got a lot more out of me than I probably would have gotten out of myself, because instead of just being the singer, I was the singer and the engineer and the producer, and I'm running back and forth from the desk to the vocal booth to the desk to the vocal. You know, it was like just navigating how I was actually doing it was sort of almost comical in some ways. So yeah, I mean, just being able to not have to focus on all those weird things immediately, you're going to be able to have your head more in the game. But I think once he gets comfortable with you, he knows how far he can push, you know, and he knows where your sweet spot is. You know, he knows your numbers, you know, and which is funny because he was like, "You're either like a 6 or a 7 or a 1." I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, sometimes you nail it on the first one, you never get a better one. But then sometimes you really, really dial in parts of it, and like 6 or 7 are just over the top. And you go, so you're telling me I suck? I was like, no, you're just dialing it in, you know? And it's like, all right. Especially when you're doing comps and you're doubling. Like, it's never the mains. The mains are always, you know, whatever he's grabbing. But when you go for doubles, he's trying to get all those little inflections and the weird, you know, just those little nuances and stuff. You know, you listen to it 52 times and you're like, all right, I think I got it. Wait a minute, let me just do 2 that are the same. And he's like, nope, I don't want 2 that are the same. I want 2 of that one. And you're like, damn it, man, why did I have to try to fucking, you know, vocal of the year performance on that one? Now I can't do it again, you know. But, you know, I would never have that conversation if I was by myself. So, yes, 100% it's going to make the project better. But it's like that with everything. You know, it's like everything gets put under the microscope. And sometimes it's just easier when you don't have to focus on being the guy looking through the microscope. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm like, man, let me look in there because this doesn't seem like it's going to work at all. Usually when you step back and you listen to it and it gets all put into perspective, you go, okay, I get it. I totally get it. Sometimes it's weird, but, you know, usually it's not. But yeah, I mean, it's always going to be better when you've got everyone there and you can just, you don't have to guess, you know. I wonder if the guys will like this. You just turn around, they're right there and they're just giving you a thumbs up. And you're like, okay, that's a bullshit thumbs up. You don't really like that. You know what I mean? You're just being cool to me right now. But yeah, I mean, I think the whole experience of being together and just, you know, looking people in the eye and telling, okay, are you really bullshitting me or are you telling me the truth? And it's much easier when you're face to face in person when you're actually doing it. Because the other beauty of that, the other side of the coin is you don't have to dwell on it. Typically, you solve the problem, sing the line, change the vocal, whatever needs to be done. So 10 seconds later, you're done with it. Dwell on it, you know. So.
What do you hope everyone takes away while listening to Projected's music in general, John? What do you hope they get from it, man? From this new album to the old stuff, what do you hope they get from it?
Just, you know, I mean, a little bit of, you know, observations. You know, I mean, most of the stuff that I write about is, you know, just observing humanity, observing life, observing how people treat each other, observing, you know, just the whole human condition. And just, you know, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But for the most part, I think, you know, there's more good than there is bad. And I think that's what we try to focus on in the world of Projected is maybe sometimes a little bit more of the positive. I mean, obviously you're going to focus on the negative sometimes. It's unavoidable. Hypoxia is obviously focusing on a negative thing. But, you know, I think if people can just, you know, lose themselves for a bit, you know, when they jam this stuff and just escape. But also escape to a place where it's like, you know, it's not all lost. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
You know, man, you've done a lot of shows with Sevendust, and plus you've done shows with Projected. But I know there's got to be one show that you played that you just will never forget and can't get it out of your mind, man. What's that? What's that number one place for you, possibly, if you have one?
Oh man, Red Rocks is tough to say. It's not in the mix because of just how staggeringly beautiful it is. Red Rocks was phenomenal. Warsaw, Poland.
Wow.
All places on earth, I'm gonna throw it out there. It was a 2,500 seat venue that was sold out, and I've never heard 2,500 people sing louder in my entire life. And I've never seen 25 people actually stand outside the bus and wait for autographs after the show, because they did. We stayed out there for hours signing autographs. That was one of the most memorable ones, just because I remember we were just laughing at each other because of how loud the crowd was. I was like, I couldn't hear the band over the vocals. They sang every word to every song. And I mean, it was one of those, it was a nice club, but it was just a club. It was just a nice room with a proper stage and a proper PA, good crew, you know, food was great. And the crowd was just, we all looked at each other like, what? Like, we did Woodstock, which was pretty amazing. And those 2,500 people in Warsaw, Poland absolutely smoked Woodstock.
Wow.
So, yeah. I mean, I remember just the hairs on the back of my neck standing up going, wow.
You're right, man. I watched these videos from overseas, especially I watched one with Blackstone Cherry they played overseas over in London.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you know, Chris just hit the chord, man. That's all he did. And I mean, like every freaking song was just so loud, John. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like I see, you know, like Ozzy when he played in Japan, people were singing the lyrics in English. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
And then after that, they're back to speaking their own language. I'm going, that's fucked up.
That's awesome.
It is, man. And I get just excited in the crowd, just as you guys do on stage. And when I do my podcast, I get just excited as you guys on stage. You know, I mean, I feel like I'm bringing everybody, you guys. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hell yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, John, how can folks stay in touch with you? Buy this new album when it comes out. Everything for Hypoxia, not Hypoxia, like as I called it earlier, but Hypoxia. How can I do that, my man?
Stay in touch with me. I'm on all the socials for the most part. On Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, I'm real easy to find, mostly on Facebook and Instagram more than anything. JMC70 on Instagram, Twitter. I think I'm J Connolly 1119. And then on Facebook, John Connolly music page. And then all the links are all on all the Rat Pat pages too and all that good stuff. But yeah, through Sevendust as well, sevendust.com, and then all the Sevendust fan pages. Are you still signing the autograph stuff to send out, or is that already over with? I believe they still have some of it. I'm not sure where the counts are as far as the sales checked in on that stuff, but I believe they still have them up on the website. Okay. And before I let you go, good sir, would you care to do another promo for my show? Sure. Hey, this is John Connolly from Sevendust and Projected, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour. Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please go check out our Facebook page and our podcast link, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. Everything that we do will be on the YouTube page, and please subscribe to it and pick up John Connolly's new album that's coming out with the band Projected. He's been in this for a long time, and with Sevendust, Hypoxia, check that out, and his old stuff too. Don't sleep on these two bands because Sevendust still brings it, and I cannot wait to see you guys at Louder Than Life this year, my friend, and hopefully get to meet you. Absolutely. Looking forward to it, man. Stick around, folks. We'll see you next time. And John, thank you so much, my friend. All right. Thanks, brother.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.